Welcome back for another installment of Fellowship of the Rink. Episode 38 is brought to you by our incredible local friends in Waggle Golf, 9 Mile Brewing, and the officially unofficial craft beer of the Minnesota Wild, Barrel Theory Beer Company. With me, as always, Joe Smith of The Athletic, bringing you all of your insider info on your Minnesota Wild and Gophers hockey. There's been a lot going on lately, Joe. Mostly it seems like pretty positive things across Minnesota hockey, which is a weird thing to say.
Absolutely. I think it's especially from the Wild perspective, people aren't used to having this kind of a start to the year. And so people are wondering, is this kind of the Charlie Brown thing where they'll get it, pulled away from them at the end or not? But I think people should just kind of enjoy the beginning of the season, right? The Vikings are, right behind the Lions and close to first place in the division. And the Wild are one of the hottest teams in the National Hockey League. Obviously, the Frost haven't started their season yet,
Yeah.
But we're going to get into the Timberwolves are just starting their season, so a lot to be excited about in Minnesota, and which is, I guess, the mic drop is a lot to be disappointed about when it finishes. But let's enjoy the ride. I'm sure if you're a fan, enjoy the ride.
That's not how it works here in Minnesota, Joe. You know well enough by now. And the funny thing is, you bring up both the Vikings and the Wild. Of course, we have to have reasons to complain. That's just how it works. But pretty valid reason, I think, for some out-of-state fans who apparently a lot of people doubled up and decided they were going to make a weekend of it, come out here and wanted to go see Minnesota Wild playing the Toronto Maple Leafs on Sunday at 5:00. And wanted to come out and see the standard noon game for the Minnesota Vikings against the Indianapolis Colts. Only the NFL does whatever the heck they want, and they flex the game to Sunday Night Football, and everyone's angry because even if you didn't buy tickets for both games, which I feel so bad for those fans, if you're one of those and you're listening, true condolences. That sucks. I empathize. But even if you're just a fan, like I was at the Wild game on Sunday, and by the time I got home afterwards, it was halftime. It's like, God damn, that sucks.
It does. It's funny. I was at the Trampled by Turtles concert last Thursday, I think it was, and it was the Vikings were playing on Thursday night against the Rams, and the Wild were playing at night too. And so it was and I walked around the X, and then none of them, a lot of places didn't have the game on the TVs, right? I'm like, where's the Wild game? We're at the X. Where's, and the only places you could find the Wild games there were one of the two bars in there, right? They weren't on the actual TVs that were along the concourse. So I had to search out the Wild game.
That's disappointing.
You know what I mean? Why is that on TV there? It should be on all the screens,
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna have the concert up on the screen. Who, if you're out there hitting the concessions, why do you care what you see on stage?
And there was nothing on there. It wasn't even the concert on the TV.
Lame.
For me, and especially there was a 30-minute intermission in between. Why don't people go watch that? I'd rather watch the Wild game and the Vikings Rams, whatever, while I'm having a beer in between.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just disappointed. I was like, this is the home of the Wild. They should have the Wild game should be on in the concourse, whatever. You could hear the music. You don't need to, just watch the game. So that was a surprise to me. But that reminds me of what you said, Sunday night having to have all those different choices to make. And like you said, I'm sure very few people try to do the double dip of the Vikings plus the hockey game, knowing they're both, not that they're both in different cities too. They're both St. Paul and Minneapolis, but obviously a big day for Minnesota teams with the Wild beating another really good team in Toronto after just beating Tampa Bay. And then the Vikings, despite bumbling early on, finding a way to win too. So just behind the team I grew up watching, the Lions, who are probably the class of the NFL right now. And that's just not me saying it.
Be honest, if they still had Hutchinson, if he was healthy, would you just be full soupy mode right now? Just 100%, they're winning the Super Bowl. It's happening.
And they're doing it without him too, which is crazy. You have one of the best defensive players, arguably in the conference there, he's not playing, and they're still on the road in Green Bay doing what he did. Like, it's incredibly impressive. I think what happened last year too, they lost in the SEC title game, and then bring them back, and like a guys just kind of they're on a mission this year. I was at the game, the Vikings versus Lions game in Minnesota a few weeks ago with my wife, and like it was like you felt the Vikings were going to win, and all of a sudden you felt it towards the fourth quarter, like the Lions are going to find a way. And it was just casual. That last drive was just casual, like run, pass, blah, 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 and then long field goal to win the game. Like it was, as somebody who grew up a Lions fan, somebody who grew up where 91 until 2023, there were 0 playoff victories. It's a different way of living right now.
Well, it's funny too, because like they're very fun to watch. This isn't a quote unquote hot take, but we'll give the little bump here to our friends at Barrel Theory, pre Keyboard Warriors. It's not a hot take, but I'm gonna get like torched for it. Growing up, like, sure, like go Vikings, but I was way more like I passionately hated the Packers, didn't like the Bears, and the Lions were like weirdly like my adoptive, like I just want the Vikings and the Lions to be the top 2 teams. I want the other 2 to suck. And it kind of became part of my Thanksgiving tradition too, right? Like Lions always played and they were the sympathetic figure, right? And I always cheered for them because I'm like, I don't want them to get their asses kicked that bad, right? I always loved their jerseys. And I told you before, I don't remember if it was on recording or just when we were getting beers, but I loved Matthew Stafford, especially when he was playing with Megatron. Like that won me several fantasy football championships. They were a great time. So like I've got a soft spot for the Lions. Now, obviously that they're really good. Like I don't cheer against them per se. Like I'm cheering for the Vikings when they play each other, but like outside of that, like I do kind of loosely pull for them. And I'm sure people say, oh, in division, you can't do that. Like screw the Packers, screw the Bears. I don't mind the Lions.
Well, like, and for me, like as a journalist, I root for a good story, right? I don't care who wins or what the teams are or whatever like that. And for the Lions to have this such playoff drought for so long and to be so good now, like the lovable Lions, lovable losers, the ones that are always kind of the pre-Minnesota fans, pre-Minnesota teams, Charlie Brown, right? The Lions always pull you in and bring you back. But if they went to the Super Bowl, holy crap, like
fun.
The Lions fans will come out of the woodwork that will just, I don't even want to know what those tickets will cost.
I need Lions Bills. I need it.
Like, I think that would be such a great story for the sport, There's probably sick of Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady and whatever. Like, I think it would be great for the league or whatever. But like Dan Campbell, like the coach, like such a fun dude to like watch. And like those people are like, those guys are like Amon St. Brown and like
he's so good.
Who hates Jared Goff? Like who hates this guy? Like, so there's a lot of people who like likable characters in that mix. But again, this is Vikings territory, and the Vikings could very well beat them and go on and go far. But it is
surprisingly,
but it's cool to see some newer teams get a chance to make a run. And I'm sure like Wild fans would say, like, hey, it's the Wild's turn, right? They've seen enough BS from the Avs and Lightning and whatever else. Like, it would be a cool story if, like, as a writer for the Wild, with such a long history of not getting there, to all of a sudden have that run. So there's always a chance for Wild fans to dream, right?
Man, this is more of a hot take. I think if you told Wild fans that guaranteeing a Lions Super Bowl win would also guarantee the Wild get past the first round of the playoffs this year, I think overwhelming majority say, yeah, I'll take that deal. I don't care. Like, do it. Hit the button. I think that would be an interesting proposition to throw out there. Maybe that'll be a social media post later this week. We'll see. 9 Mile Brewing, located in the land of local legend Mark Parrish. That's right. None other than Bloomington is proud to be the newest partner of Fellowship of the Rink. Stop on by the tap room for some fresh, local craft beer NA beverages, and a variety of snacks. Seasonal beers do rotate frequently just to keep their offerings new and exciting, with games available for all ages, and that includes contests, different tournaments. I know Crokinole is a big one right now. They have cribbage tournaments, and of course, euchre for the sickos out here in the Midwest like myself. But on top of that, I can tell you firsthand, they encourage everyone to bring out their inner nerddom with staff and regular patrons alike. Producer Isha and myself were out there recently and recorded some really fun content with their head brewer, John, only to happen across a collection of Lord of the Rings replica swords. If you want to see where things went from there, be sure to check out the full video on our YouTube channel. Just go and search The Soda Pod. It's the Flight series, and it was a lot of fun. Cheers to the state of hockey. And again, friends, go check out our newest partner here, 9 Mile Brewing out in Bloomington. All right, but we got a lot to cover here. Again, things seemingly good in Minnesota, which is a weird and uncomfortable spot for us. But recent years, it hasn't been that way for the Gophers. And especially this season, like, people are pretty high on what the Gophers might be able to do, especially when you look at the depth of their forward group. And everyone's favorite bit going right now is Bob Motzko and his fourth line, where whoever played great last game, they're the fourth line this game. And I don't know. I didn't think Bob had that in him, but I absolutely love the cheekiness with it. I think it's funny. And it's a cool thing to roll when, like, truly there is not a fourth line on this team. They are top to bottom. I haven't seen, like, 2 years ago, the top of the lineup, best that the Gophers have ever had. But now this might be the deepest forward group that the Gophers have ever had. It's pretty crazy. And we are absolutely spoiled by what Bob Motzko has been building up here.
And considering the guys they've lost over the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And, Snuggerud came back, which was a big boon for them, part of that depth. But yeah, clearly when you can just mix and match and have a line with Clark and Kurth and Matthew Wood, the new kid on the block, like, that's a dynamite line. And you have Snuggerud's line. There's not like a typical dump truck fourth line grinder one. You don't need one, I guess, on this group. So yeah, I think that gives Bob Motzko so much flexibility and fun to be able to roll these guys out in different situations. And he trusts them in all situations too. Not like there's one line that's just kind of a one-trick pony that you kind of put about in all the situations. He trusts these guys, and that's probably why they're so excited about this group. And you could tell just from talking to players, and you've been out there more than I have, Scott, but I don't know. They're just maybe a certain maturity about some of the group, and guys are ticked off from last year. The way it ended, I know Snuggerud is for sure, but like guys that I think guys are probably sick of hearing about the Leopold and Paul Martin group, right? Like, they love them and they'll revere them to death, and they are the glory years. England Motzko is part of that staff too. But I think there's a certain point where guys probably get sick of hearing about those teams from 20 years ago that, want to bring the title back to Minnesota. So at some point it's going to break through, but it's fun to watch the maturation of a team from early season and seeing such a newcomers come in and play the way that they have.
Yeah. And this weekend was a big step in that maturation too, because all year we've watched them go out and, whether or not like it was completely dominating games on the score sheet, it sure looked like it. Like, they've been putting up goals like crazy. And this is a weekend where it was a little bit of a bare knuckle brawl. Like, this Penn State group, granted, I discounted them way more than I should have. I didn't think they were a bad team, but I didn't think that they had quite what they brought. And Bob said it in the post-game availability. Like, this was a gutty effort. Like, he was actually very happy with what the team put out there, even though some of the people that watched Saturday maybe didn't quite see it that way, just because, again, the expectations that have been set so far. But this was, it's just a different way to win. The team getting to experience that early in the season and seeing, hey, we don't have to go out there and score 5 or 6 goals to win a game. Like, we can win this style of game. And I don't know. It's fun that literally the only people that scored this weekend were named Jimmy. Also very funny that I don't know if you heard this one, Joe, but the Souliere stat from our guy Nate Wells, who covers the Gophers on MNCAA. The Gophers are 9-0 in games against Penn State where Liam Souliere plays.
Okay.
It's a very funny one. And of course, the latest one coming in shutout fashion. And he played great. He very much kept them in this game.
And I wondered, I didn't want to, we talked to Jimmy Clark, obviously, for one of our interviews for these podcasts here, but I know NHL, they have money on the board, right? When you play against a former team, or they have that stuff where, as Zach Parise puts money on the board when they face the Wild after the buyout, right? And, number of money's there, and whoever helps them win and gets whatever, the story about money on the board, but like, they're not probably that way in college, but there's got to be some sort of carrot or storyline or something that happens there, because that's a lot of motivation for that team to help Liam get that victory, and clearly he's playing some of his better hockey, and he's playing in front of a really good team too, so he'll have an opportunity to play for a championship potentially here, which is why he made the move.
Absolutely. And I don't know why my brain just went to like, oh, if Brock Faber or Logan Cooley was still here, they'd just walk up and they'd slap that Chipotle card up on the board. That's the college legal way to go about the board bets.
Well, like college kids who are in a big campus that have to worry about paying for Chipotle. Come on now. Like, this is not Friday Night Lights here. They walk in and they can, do whatever, but they got to have some benefits there somewhere.
Yep. Now, this is the inner Minnesotan in me. And again, I know you haven't fully ingratiated yourself into the same mindset, but you've seen it plenty. I hate that the Gophers have been playing so well and that the Badgers have been playing so bad. And that's where the collision course hits, because you just know from all the stories you've written over the years covering hockey, this is the weekend where you just feel like the headline is Badgers get right against their rival. And I'm terrified for that to occur. I really hope it doesn't happen. And I hope they get their revenge from last year, of course, not having the best go at it with the Badgers. And I know it's a combination of the rivalry, but it's also, Mike Hastings has had the Gophers number when he was with Minnesota State. Their depth scoring has to kick in at some point in Wisconsin. They have good players that performed last year that just haven't done anything. It's really just come from one line for them for the most part. I really, really hope that my fears don't come to fruition here.
Yeah, they can call it quote unquote a trap game, but it's hard to be a trap game when it's one of your biggest rivalries, right? They're not going to sneak up on the Gophers here. The Gophers obviously have plenty of motivation from what happened last year. So what you would think of as a team, a powerhouse playing a team, look at its wounds. Typically that would be one of those things you call it a trap game. But when you play Minnesota, Wisconsin, and what's happened in recent history, I really think this will be a very highly charged, like it usually is. But I don't think there'll be any one of those letdown effects going into this one. There's clearly some motivation there, and Minnesota team on the rise. And obviously, but yeah, Wisconsin's going to play their best game. This is going to be a huge measuring stick, and it'll be a way for them to maybe turn their season around a little bit. But yeah, I don't think there'll be any letdown from a Minnesota perspective in this particular situation.
We hope not. And let's kick it over right now to player who we hope has a big say in that. Minnesota Wild prospect and current Gopher, Jimmy Clark. This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it. That makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order. Joining the show today is one of us by way of Edina, Minnesota, getting the chance to represent the Hornets at the X in the state tourney, where he may just end up playing his professional hockey after being drafted by your Minnesota Wild in the 7th round of the 2023 NHL Draft, Jimmy Clark. Jimmy, appreciate you jumping on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Of course. First question we ask everybody, and it's a little different for you because you obviously grew up and the Wild existed for all of your upbringing, but Wild logo gets talked about a lot.
Yeah.
What did you think it was the first time you saw it?
First time I saw it, as a kid, I saw it, a bunch of trees, just a little stream, right? But once you hear it's, what is it, like a wolf or something, or some shape of an animal's head, right?
Like a bear or something like that.
Bear, yeah, something like that.
First time we've got wolf, we've heard like bobcat, we've heard bear. Someone
yeah,
said, oh,
yeah, some animal.
Nice. And so growing up, were you a big Wild fan, or were you like the middle stats and jumped on a wagon with someone like the Penguins?
No, I was Wild, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, being drafted by the Wild, is that just peak moment for you? Is this something, were you expecting that at all, or is that out of the blue?
I mean, it's awesome. Wasn't really expecting it. I mean, there's obviously an opportunity, a chance it happened. I mean, seeing that, it happened was, it's awesome. It's really cool. And so, yeah, I was excited for that for sure.
What was the draft day like for you? Who was all with you? Where did you kind of watch it from? Something like that. What was your
I don't watch the draft. I kind of just went about my day. I got drafted when I was skating. I just had to skate in the afternoon, got off the ice, and I saw it. So it's kind of, yeah.
So somebody call you, or do you saw on your phone, or someone probably texted you hey, by the way?
Yeah, I just saw a ton of texts and some calls right when I got off the ice. So that's kind of how it happened.
Was that more so just take pressure off yourself and not watching the draft, or you just kind of more your personality kind of laid back and kind of what happens?
Yeah, what happens happens. It's obviously not the end of the world if you don't get drafted either way. But yeah, I kind of just went about my day, kept it the same. Yeah.
As you could see, our podcast is Fellowship of the Rink, kind of to the Lord of the Rings fandom there. I wasn't sure if you're a LOR fan or not, but if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, what's your kind of nerddom or fandom you have that you like, a book series or a TV show or a movie thing that or do you collect something or something that kind of in your
play some video games, I guess. Our team's been playing the new COD, Call of Duty. So, that's been fun. That's kind of been our nerdy thing going on right now.
Nice. Who's the mark? Who's the guy that everyone knows is just going to weigh someone down?
Mental stats really good, Luke.
He's really good?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You mean who's bad?
Yeah. I want to know who, everyone's oh, yeah, got him.
We're all, he's, way better than everybody. And then we're kind of just, all the same,
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys do any team bonding things before the season started? I know there are a lot of new guys kind of coming in. What was kind of the thing that brought guys together?
Yeah, we this summer, all of us came to the rink Monday through Friday in the morning and all worked out together every day. Weekends we go out on. Some guys got boats, went on the lakes. We're all together all the time, all summer, which was so much fun. And yeah, it brought us together. It helped us out, pushing each other. We all got stronger. We skated it together. It was a great summer. Great for everybody.
Who has the best boat setup? Who has the best lake setup?
Whipple's got a nice boat out on Tonka. Yeah.
Make good use of that one.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta just get right to it, Jimmy. That goal, 26 seconds left. Weird game, I gotta imagine, for you guys, just based on how the season's gone so far. But did you just close your eyes and let Luke whip it at you, or how'd that happen?
Yeah, it's kind of some of the high spot. Saw fastball coming. Luke kind of tried to throw it towards the net, and I was fortunate to get a stick on it and redirected it, beat the goalie. Yeah, it was a weird game for sure.
Yeah, like what was it like for you guys having to work through like what Bob kind of labeled as being a really gritty weekend against a team like Penn State?
Yeah, they didn't take their chances up against us. I mean, they'd have 3 guys back. It'd be hard. We're a very fast transition team. We'll make you pay if you make a mistake on us in the neutral zone or out the rush. So they'd have 3 guys back. They did a really good job of making us really have to grind for our opportunities and our chances. So, yeah, it was just kind of a dogfight out there. Not many shots. Yeah, we were fortunate to get one during regulation.
Yeah, super cool for Liam Souliere, right? Like,
yeah,
his whole team getting the shutout. Like, was that something that you guys talked about a lot before the game, or was it just kind of unspoken? Like, we got to go get this done for him.
It was. I mean, we didn't really talk about it in front of him, right? Just to kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, before the game, we were talking. I was like, Liam's gonna get a shutout tonight, and they were like, I don't know. But yeah, it ended up happening. It was such a cool moment. I mean, our locker room was going crazy. We were so excited for him. He was pumped up. It was a special moment.
What's his personality like off the ice? Like, you got a chance to know him now. Just what is goaltenders tend to be a little weird cats, a little different on their own ways for both the routines and superstitions. Like, what's his personality like off the ice?
He's awesome. He's a great dude. He's very energetic. He came this summer once, 1 week, and we didn't know how he was going to be. He stayed here, and right away he was chatting all the time. Just he was, sometimes you think he might be a little quiet, meeting some new guys, but he fit right in. Very nice guy. He's a team player. Yeah, he's great. He'll be special for us. He's a good player.
The line you guys have had going on, I mean, just with you and Connor and Matthew, just like where did the chemistry kind of start to build, and when you kind of start to see something special there with you guys?
Yeah, Connor and I kind of had a little bit of chemistry last year. Played a little bit together in some games and in practice and all that. And then Woody's he's just a great player. You can put him probably with anybody. But yeah, we fit so well together. Kurth, he makes plays. He's great with the puck. Woody's a big body. He's going to protect it down low, and I'm going to come help and grind for him. And he's got a great shot, so it works. It works really well.
And what do you see as your role being carved out with that group?
I see it's kind of responsible center in the D zone. I think high VF1, getting on the pucks. Yeah, things like that. Battling the corners.
Sure. And you guys have, for most of the season, been designated the fourth line by Coach. And I don't know how much it's talked about or if the boys are even really aware, but all the hubbub online is that Bob just takes whatever line played best last game and throws them on as the fourth line for the depth chart that day.
No, we don't got a fourth line. I mean, our team is so deep. Our group of forwards is incredible. I mean, you physically can't make a fourth line with the group of guys we got. So he kind of just throws whatever. I mean, we don't look at it like we're the fourth line, but it really does not matter for our team.
What skill would you want to steal from one of your teammates? If you had to pick one skill from one of your teammates, what would you like to steal from them?
Taking Snuggy's shot for sure. Yeah.
What do you guys say to him after a game like that? Like, obviously Friday, great game for him, and all the Jimmy goals. I make stupid posts on Twitter whenever you guys get goals, and I throw in like Jimmy and then someone like famous or like a pop culture reference, and then like make something funny off it. You guys are burning through my Jimmys really fast. But like, great game Friday, and then unfortunate play there at the end of the first period on Saturday. Like, what do you guys say to him in the locker room after that all unfolds?
Nothing. We got it. We'll finish it out. It happens. I don't know. We just kind of just went through it. Next man up mentality. Kind of lines were switching around a little bit because we were uneven, but it was fun. You're just playing with new players. We're just playing hockey out there. It's all right. Yeah.
Being so close in town, like I'm sure you have a lot of conversations as it is with the Wild development staff. Ben Hendricks was the guy before, and obviously Bombardier has been around for a long time. Just how often do you guys communicate, and what are the things that they're trying to get you to do a little bit better or kind of improve on as you kind of continue your college career here?
Yeah, they come to quite a few games. I know Sapo came to Duluth, and Cody was here. Yeah, it's not too much. I mean, they don't want to tell me something that is different than what coach is saying. Trying to mess that. It's basically just basic stuff. Just keep getting in the net. Just keep working on little skill stuff. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's nice having them come to games and talk to them a little bit.
And going out to dev camp, like, are there any players that are in the Wild pool that like you've become tighter with, guys that you're still like in touch with regularly, or guys that you just saw chemistry with right away when you popped out there?
Well, Strams and I have been buddies for a long time. We were to dev camp last year. We were always hanging out. Same as Ryan Healy. I played with him at Halinka. He's a great dude. Us three were kind of always hanging out. So those are kind of my two buddies that were always together.
What do you think of Strammel's start of the year that he's had?
I think he's been great. I like him at Michigan State. I think he fits really well with that group, that team. And, yeah, they're a good team. He's going to have a really big year.
Could you see kind of like a low Lipset or just having the fresh perspective of a new team or a coach he knows kind of help him this year? Like, how would you kind of describe what's been the difference you've seen in him this year?
Yeah, he plays more freely. He's with guys that he's played with before. He's with like Howard and some other NCDP guys. Same coach. He's probably just more comfortable. He's loose. He can play his game. He doesn't have other things in the back of his head. He's it's a fresh start. So yeah, he can play his game.
Yeah, and I imagine it's nice not having him in Wisconsin this coming weekend with no North Dakota on the schedule of late. Like, is Wisconsin kind of the matchup that you guys circle every year, or what is the vibe, like you being a Minnesota boy through and through with Wisconsin?
For sure this year. They swept us last year at home ice, and we want to take that revenge this weekend. With no neck out, definitely. We have a lot of other Minnesota teams that we're playing this year. We've already played 3 of them, but yeah, Wisconsin's definitely the team that we're gonna want to beat right now.
Like I grew up in Michigan area, and I lived and worked in Florida, North Carolina, and California before this. And I keep telling people what a unique high school hockey is in the state of Minnesota, and they don't really understand. I went to the state tournament the last couple of years, and just how unique that atmosphere is. I was wondering, like, other than obviously the state tournament, what made kind of the high school experience for you so unique or different, you think, maybe from other places?
Yeah, I mean, high school hockey is, you're just growing up with your best friends and your buddies. Just as a kid, going to go watch the state tournament, watching those high school players, you think they're the coolest people ever, right? You want to be them one day, and you guys are growing up together, playing together. It's really special. It's really fun. It's having to go to win a state tournament and just to do it with your best friends. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's a fun thing in Minnesota.
Probably leading the witness here a little bit, because I imagine I know what the answer is, but you guys have to just love it being in Edina and having like the entire state hate you and like have you be their number one team they want to take down. Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. You get their best game every night. I mean, same thing as right here. The Gophers people, they want to beat us. So we get everyone's best game. So it's nothing not new.
Did you go last year when they won the state title?
No, but we were watching it. Yeah, everybody was watching it. We were getting pretty happy. Got them all rooting for the Hornets. So
yeah, the crowd, like, obviously it was incredible. Like the amount of fans that were there for it and everything like that. And
yeah, that's awesome.
Other teams of student section was yelling "Pay your taxes," which was kind of the funny line.
Yeah.
What are you like other than video games? Like, what do you love to do off the ice? Like, I'm sure like every hockey player, you're a golfer, but like what's the off the ice kind of thing that kind of makes you tick?
Yeah, I mean, I like to golf. I like in the summer. I like going out on the lake. With the guys. I just whatever the guys want to do that day is just whatever. I just like hanging out. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're kind of along for the ride, down to do whatever the group wants. Who's the one that's making the decisions? Who's leading the charge?
I don't know. It could be somebody, whoever's got a good plan or some idea. I don't know.
Who's the most active in the group chat? Who's the most active or kind of obnoxious in the group chat?
Who's the most active? I'll say Nick Michael.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is there been any alumni that have come back that have had any speeches or anything like that kind of struck a chord with you? I know you have leadership. I think leadership Mondays, or I think they're coming around this year. But like, what kind of speeches have you had from alumni that have come back?
Yeah, we had, who was it? Was it Larry O'Brien, I believe. Old Gopher. He played with Snuggy's dad. He was telling us how, he came in with great leadership, and he was on a team that was, so close, and everybody just bought in. And it's kind of just giving us a story and, what it takes. And it's everybody, it's a whole team aspect. And, that was really cool to hear, and kind of, how they did it. But, yeah, just take pieces from what he had in his experiences.
You had an interesting comeuppance to your freshman year with the Gophers, right? Like, the plan was to go back to Green Bay, and then spot opened up. Was it as simple as that? They just said, "Hey, Jimmy, we want you up," and you're like, "Yep, here I come." Or was there any like evaluation to whether or not that made sense for like where your game was at or your development path?
Yeah, it was definitely a process. It was. Coach told me at some point in the summer that even though Cool said he was coming back, he was saying, you don't really trust it until he's back in the locker room for your first day. So I didn't really think too much of it. I'm like, all right, well, the guy, everyone's saying he's coming back. So I was dead focused on Green Bay, went to main camp, met all the new guys. Bob came to main camp, which I thought was a little different. And then he brought me in. He was saying that he needed a player to come in, needed me to come in. And at first I wasn't a fan of it. I wanted to go back to Green Bay and develop another year, but he was telling me to trust him. And I was just skate with them all in the summer. I was like, yeah, I can do it. I can be a player. I can be a fourth line player. I can do whatever type of player, whatever he needs. So it came down to it, and I can't say no. I mean, I've wanted to be a Gopher my whole life, and the opportunity comes. It's hard to pass up. It's kind of how I went through.
I know guys can get to the NHL many different ways, different leagues, and way to get there. I know you played for the program a few years back. USHL, like what makes it a strong place to develop as a player? Maybe other people say junior, some would be college hockey, which you're experiencing now. But what are the strengths of kind of USHL, playing there?
Yeah, it's a skilled league. It's the best Americans, Canadians all come to one league. You play 60-some games. It's a lot, and you're practicing every day. You're focused on hockey, but you're also meeting a great new set of guys as well. Just enjoying it, getting away from everybody. Just really just you guys, and whatever city you're in, just all trying to get better. And you're on lockdown. You're just hanging out with each other. So it's a great league.
And looking at your freshman year, like on another one of our shows that we do where we kind of focus on wild prospects, like the message week after week is, wow, like maybe Jimmy's not scoring, but he's not making a lot of mistakes. Like this is a guy who's just doing the right thing, doing the little things. What do you think like the biggest learning was though from that freshman year? As we look at it, 11 points last year, you're already at 10 this year, 8 games in. Like, obviously you've taken a big step, but what do you attribute that to? Like, what did you really take out of that first year?
That first year was, a lot of just doing the right things, playing defense, just earning coaches' trust, doing the little things right, trying to be someone that you can rely on in important parts of the game, face-offs, not getting scored on, obviously as a fourth line role last year, that's what you want to do. And, that's my role. And figured if I want to play, like it came in, like I got to do these things right. I got to make impacts, play my role. So that was kind of my thought process behind that.
Who was your favorite Wild player growing up, and who's your favorite Wild player to watch kind of now?
Growing up, probably Preezy. But now definitely Kirill. He's so fun to watch.
What do you kind of appreciate the most as kind of fellow player out of his game when you watch him?
I think he moves unbelievably. I mean, the way he can just open up his hips and make plays. And yeah, he's just a treat to watch. Every night you see something crazy that he's going to do. Or yeah.
How much money is he going to make on that next contract?
I don't know.
It's a big number.
Yeah, something he deserves.
All right. Well, Jimmy, tell me. Go ahead, Joe.
No, go
ahead. Talk to us about the golf game. Where's it at? How do you compare to the boys?
I'm all right. I mean, it's definitely nothing to brag about. We got some really good. We got some studs on our team. Like Snuggerud's ball player, Fallone's a really good player. Kester, they're all like around scratch players. So it's no fun when I'm in their group. But yeah, we got a lot of guys that love to golf.
Final question brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com. Throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order.
We ask everybody every episode to wrap it up. Your dream golf foursome. So who'd be the three people in your dream golf foursome you'd want to have in there? Could be dead or alive, could be celebrities, could be hockey players, could be family, could be anything. Who'd be the three people in your dream golf foursome that you want to be with?
Dream foursome of golf. I want Kobe. I want give me Gretzky and give me Ant. I think that'd be funny. Yeah.
We've had a few guys say Ant too. That'd be so good to how competitive he is too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
God, I'd almost have to get him and Jefferson out there in the same cart together and just see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
What'd you think about that redux of the old Garnett Moss?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was cool. I mean, even there, just hanging out in the back, just throwing football into the hoop, see all that stuff. Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, Ant said in that interview that he could go play NFL football, a couple of years if he wins a championship. What sport would you play? Could you play professionally if you weren't playing hockey? What would be the next one you could pull an Ant and do?
I don't know if I could pull them all off now. Any of them off now. I love football back in the day, but obviously not big enough for that now. So, yeah.
You can the hockey is going pretty well for you. So,
well, everyone, hey, make sure you go to getyourwaggleon.com. Throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Again, appreciate you jumping on. Awesome weekend, awesome season so far, and please do go get that revenge on the horrible Badgers.
Trying my best. Thank you, guys. It's fun.
No All right, Joe, on to Minnesota Wild topics. And we're going to actually go backwards and say Iowa Wild topics because, holy crap, Iowa's winning games. This is a very, very nice turn of events, and let's add it to the list of, hey, things are going okay for Minnesotans lately.
They are, and obviously there was a decent amount of concern early on with the Iowa Wild because of what happened last year, and I went down there and documented all kind of the perfect storm of what happened and the struggles there, and first year under Brett McLean. So to have the rough start that they did raised some red flags a bit, but I think to win a few games in a row, to have Wallstedt playing the way he did, to have some contributions on the lineup, definitely is an encouraging sign, I think, if you're a Wild fan or a Wild management. So, it starts with their goaltending, and Wallstedt's one of the best, should be the best goalie in the AHL at this particular point. Had a big matchup against their top prospect the other night. Two of the best goalies two of the best goalies not in the NHL, and he delivered. So if you're a Wild fan watching that and seeing, okay, it maybe took a little while for him to kind of catch back down to Iowa from where he thought he might be in Minnesota to play his game. That's a pretty good sign. And, Iowa didn't have to win a championship, but it helps develop better players when you start winning. And so to get off the schneid there certainly has to give them a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, you got to develop that winning culture. It's so important for these guys that we're hoping are going to be injected into the Minnesota Wild, in the coming years here, to hopefully the next 2 or 3. And anyone that wants to get a little bit deeper into the prospect stuff, this week on Judd's Buds, we did actually do a full depth chart for the U25 group, which really consists of like 4 or 5 current Wild players. So a lot of more in-depth coverage on the guys that are either in Iowa or playing outside of NHL, AHL. Joe, I got to ask you, coming into this season, if I told you that the Wild were going to sweep the Tampa Bay Lightning in the regular season and do it in fairly convincing fashion, like they didn't blow them out, but like we weren't super worried throughout those games, what would you have said?
I would have been pretty surprised. I mean, and not that they're like, would we be far behind where the Lightning are? Lightning is in a team in transition right now, but that doesn't happen usually for them. They beat them in Minnesota a lot. Minnesota has had the Lightning's number in St. Paul. Like, look at the history there. Been a tough building for Lightning to win in. But yeah, it's the way they did it at Florida, at Tampa, and then come back again. Tampa came back here, played Vasilevsky too, going for a 300th career win, and to beat them again. And then Toronto, another contender in the Eastern Conference. Like, you look at a team that just is brimming with confidence. They're playing together. They're playing smart. They're not a perfect group. No team in the league is, but you can sense it that the great teams find ways to win. The bad ones find ways to lose. And you're seeing a team that kind of, no matter if they have their best game early on or not, can kind of find a way and deal with that adversity in game. And that's what impressed me the most in this start. Perhaps they were just waiting for me to go on paternity leave to do that. I have no idea.
If they lose the first 3 games when you come back, what's going to happen?
Yeah, they'll probably kick me out the building. But no, I think, it is not. And the other night too, like is Boldy scoring the OT winner, and Kirill, his points, the multi-point streak snaps, and he didn't have to carry the team. Like they're not a one-trick pony, as John Hines said. They find different ways to win, and that's what's been impressive. So I think I mentioned to you before this recording, one of our senior writers, James Myrtle, wrote like a league-wide piece of like who's for real, who's not, what to read into the beginning of the season, and he kind of brought up the Capitals and the Wild as 2 teams who are way beyond expectations at this particular point in the year. And what he brought up, which I agree with, is while the goaltending has been much better than last year with Gustafsson and some Fleury and some starts, that's given them a huge difference from last year. Their expected goals, get up defensively is number 2 in the league, top 3 in the league right now. Which, if you play that well defensively, it's something you can carry over versus a goalie just saving you night and night and making you outperform. The shooting percentage and the scoring will come down probably for the Wild, which has been historically. But if you have Kirill Kaprizov and Boldy both playing at very high levels, and you get more from the veteran guys that weren't quite as good last year, that has the feel of a team, as long as they stay healthy, that this isn't a fluke the first 10, 12 games. No one's anointing them as Stanley Cup champions, but they're a team that should and very well should be a playoff team. And once you get in, let's see what happens. But I think once you have this start like this, it gives you a better opportunity to continue to munch points there and then not have to chase it the rest of the year.
Yeah, and you mentioned the goaltending. I think it's kind of unanimously agreed across anyone watching the Wild that, okay, Gustafsson of 2 years ago is a lot closer to the real thing than the one last year. My question to you, with like what we're seeing with those defensive numbers, like you said, like, do you feel like what we're seeing from Gus, the numbers, the confidence, is that something that's maybe not sustainable for the year, but like, do you think he's going to stay closer to this level, or is he going to come back a little bit more to the middle of the pack, still be better than last year, but not be on a Vezina pace like he currently is?
Yeah, like again, like I don't think people thought necessarily that the Gustafsson was the guy from 2 years ago, year after year, but he had the potential to be that guy and at really long spurts, and he did show that, especially that 2 years ago, second half of the year, he was just dominant, right? That's where it carried him into that conversation, and now he's playing well, but like the numbers show, they're playing well in front of him too. He's not quite put in those situations that he was put in last year, where he had to make some of those spectacular saves, and he wasn't doing everything right in regular saves too. So it kind of the combination, but yeah, I think what he's doing now is pretty. I don't know if it'll be this quite numbers, but close to it or a little bit below are sustainable for him if the Wild play this way in front of him. So not like he's playing out of his mind and then just stealing games left and right. I feel the expected goals allowed percentage right now. So yeah, I think to have him start this way and then not put pressure on Fleury to be guys to play that many games, like this will be a perfect combination for what they want, especially if they want to get Wallstedt games, which I still believe he will get some games this year too.
Yeah. Two other things that I think are worth bringing up that maybe haven't reached the point of trend yet, but are at least worth pointing out to follow and see if they do develop into something more. Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin pairing. This is a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and you saw recent years Spurgeon with Middleton, and then obviously last year Brodin with Faber. But that last game against the Leafs was incredible. Spurgeon and Brodin played a lot of their minutes against the top line with Matthews and holding their own. I think Mike Russo, my colleague, wrote in a story about the whole back check in overtime with Spurgeon coming off of his back and hip surgeries, missing some time earlier this season to make that kind of play is really encouraging to see him do that. And people who've watched Spurgeon longer than I have aren't surprised by that. But when you go through the kind of injuries and surgeries and try to come back, you wonder if they could be the same player. And for moments like that, you see the guy that Dean Evison would tell us every day, like he would tell Keelan Addison, be that guy, because you could stay in the league for a long time if you perform and use your body the way this guy does for such a small defenseman. And so they can mix those deep pairings up with Spurgeon and Brodin and Faber and Middleton, or Middleton and Spurgeon and Brodin and Faber. That's a really, really good top four.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the biggest piece with the Spurgeon thing, that like, it's not the talent. Like most fans outside of the ones that just want to be negative for the sake of negativity, like everyone knows what Spurgeon can do. But like a week or two ago, there were a lot of fans who were like, holy crap, is he like ever gonna play again? Like we don't know what's going on with this rehab thing. So awesome development there. The other one that's surprising, we've got the third line of Foligno, Freddie, and Trenin. They seem to be gelling and firing on all cylinders after pretty quiet start from that third line for early parts of the year.
Especially, I think they kind of had an idea going into the year that it'd be Trenin and Foligno on that line, but they didn't know what the center might be. And some of the games earlier on weren't the kind of physical games that kind of fit the Foligno-Trenin combination. And Hines, I think, pulled them aside at some point, maybe like 7 or 8 games in, and talked to them about just kind of finding ways to make an impact and not trying to do too much, or not trying to be go over the top. And it seems like they've kind of settled into what makes them effective, and they're staying out of the box for the most part, and they're playing a straight north-south game, and their physical presences, and Freddie Gaudreau, like another guy quietly under the radar who's being a lot more effective than he was last season, when he was really banged up. And he's kind of made that spot his in the third line center, and where Ryan Hartman, a very good player, comes back from injury, and they're like, hey, we'll play the fourth line. Let's see you work your way back and do that. So that will give the Wild a little more depth than people might have thought they might have had in previous years, to have a guy like Hartman playing on the fourth line there. So a lot of positives there in terms of the trickle down effect of having the Trenton and Foligno line working. And then I think that line will kind of be shuffling around as far as who that center might be as it goes along. But Goudreau has been good so far.
For sure. All right. Final segment of the show here, as always, coming from our great friends over at Barrel Theory Beer Company, Keyboard Warriors hot take segment. And again, I was out there Sunday, incredible tap list across the board. I don't know how much more I can say for you guys. And for those unsure, having that be your destination before the game, equidistant pretty much from any of the stuff you're going to do over on West 7th out here on East 7th. And there's plenty of eating options out there too. Like right next door, I hit up Dark Horse and won pull tabs, which is awesome, but good food, good drinks, and having the Barrel Theory fix, just the best. And of course, get the Crowler of the Day, section 105, every freaking time you go, or Raindrops, section 112, 217, or club level 36. Hot takes for today, Joe. This one we would have talked about anyways, but still kind of rings true after the Wild faced them. The C is weighing a little heavy on the sweater of one Austin Matthews. A lot of people like to give Johnny Tavares a pretty tough time for what he's done the last couple of years, and Matthews takes the C. His goal scoring dramatically down. After falling just short of 70 goals, he is pacing under half a goal a game, which I think that just means Austin Matthews is broken. He's done. He's washed up, right?
They should just put him on waivers and see who claims him, and see what happens.
I mean, there's no Arizona team anymore, so maybe he would clear.
Yeah, maybe the Wild shouldn't sign Mitch Marner next season. They should just trade for Austin Matthews at a bargain basement price.
What did you? Oh man, I got to add that one in. I didn't even remember that. Yeah, we're gonna do that next.
The
Continue.
Richard Gross thing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's tie him into one. Let's tie him into one. We'll just make it Toronto. Yeah. John Buccigross tags Russo and says, hey, why don't you guys sign Mitch Marner to play with Kaprizov? Fans did not take kindly to that.
I don't know what the fans said. Like, some fans were like, why not? Why have people who were not good in the playoffs on the team, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's Mitch Marner is a heck of a good hockey player. So I think if there's a player of that stature who decides in free agency that of all the teams in the world, he wants to sign with Minnesota, I think Wild fans would quickly change their tune, or at least the Wild fans who were vociferous in that the claims on that one. But the Austin Matthews claim, like, he's going to be just fine. Like, I think the transition was awkward, of course, but as seamless as it can be with Tavares, bridging the gap and reaching out to him and being so personal with it, and the whole transition got to be hard for him. But the Leafs are going to be judged in April 15th through June 15th. They're not going to be judged in October, November, right? Like, they've had slow starts the last number of years, and like, they're not blowing. Like, this is the core they have. They're going to get another run. They have a new coach, like Rube. Like, you wouldn't worry or judge Austin Matthews being a captain in the first 12 games of a season. So any team would love to have him. And so I think it's just one of those things where some guys like Kirill Kaprizov has gone off to slow starts previous couple seasons. And then, Matt Boley last season, rough start the first 19 games and came on strong. Like, I'm not worried about Austin Matthews. And, the whole Mitch Marner and Kirill Kaprizov thing would be kind of fun to see. But I don't see that as something that's logistically going to happen. But why not aim big if you're a team in free agency? So,
I mean, if we're going to take that literally and go in stature, why not pass on both of them and bring in loved former Gopher Matty Nyes, who it pains me so deeply to see him playing in Toronto.
He's so good. Like, in like that line, right? Or that whole group, the Nyes, Cooley, Faber combo on that team, like it's incredible they're on the same group, right? All the way, all of them are playing the NHL. But Nyes kind of flew under the radar relatively compared to Cooley because of the way Cooley plays and the style of which he plays and the flair and the swag. And but Nyes just feels like he's built the NHL, and a guy who's playing with Matthews and Marner and the hockey sense to do it. Like, this guy's gonna be a really good player for a long, long time. And there'll be a lot of teams that were kicking themselves for letting him get to the later second round pick. Just like
he had a pretty tough year that year, though, in the defense. Like, second round might have even been a slight reach based on how he played. But oh my gosh, you're right. Teams are absolutely kicking themselves, and he was really kicking himself right now. The guy who got him to leave the Gophers when he did, Kyle Dubas over in Pittsburgh, who's like, God, I want him over here so bad.
Yeah, well,
bad.
Yeah, he's settling for Sidney Crosby, so he will be okay in that aspect. But yeah, like I just that whole group being around them, the Frozen Four in that year, that season, see guys who are all of a sudden real deal pros, and Brock Faber is just, I think people thought Faber would be good in the NHL level, but I don't think people realize how good he was and will be. And this is just like, very rarely do you see a defenseman just come to the NHL and be this seamless. Right?
I was very wrong.
Very rare that guys can come in and play that position, and not a third pairing left shot D or a 7th D. This is a top 4 or top pairing defenseman against the best in the world right away.
Munch minutes.
In college or not, that just doesn't happen very, very often. You're looking at the Cale Makars of the world, right? So, pretty special company.
Very special company. Next one here, Joe. This one's a weirder one, and I'm sure people think it's a stretch or not weird, wild, but I think it would have been hilarious if Kirill Kaprizov took part in the photo shoot with Jefferson and Edwards, just like standing off to the side in the corner almost, because, in my defense, you could argue that there's a hockey player in the Garnett and Moss photo, because there was no team when that happened.
Well, I mean,
was in 2000, right before we got the Wild. And
Kaprizov is very much in that category of stature of where he is in the league that he plays in, right? He obviously doesn't have the familiarity with the Jefferson and Ant as far as them knowing each other relationship, but as far as stature in their sport and what he can be and what he means, like the hope and the dreams for fans and that team and in that sport, very much linked to that player, just like it is with Jefferson and just like it is with Anthony Edwards. So it would be an interesting photo shoot of like their personalities getting together, but like I think there might be some things more in common than you think about when you have elite athletes like that.
For sure.
So clearly, Minnesota's lucky to have this kind of influx of talent, or at least kind of superstar power that maybe you've seen a few times, like as Minnesota sports it probably can attest to, right? When you had, when the Twins were in their heyday versus that, like there's very few times all the sports teams have had that superstar at the same time.
It is a very cool thing to see. Last one here that I don't have a particular post or comment on, but I've just seen endless comments on Yakov Trenin being the biggest bust of a signing. And I know it's because he's really the only signing we made this summer. And so people are going to key in on that and be like, why aren't you doing more? It is weird, though. Like, I think people need to give him more runway for sure. But at this point in the season, having 1 assist and then having the only fight on the team being Brock Faber. And then you're looking at this third line with him and Foligno being like, come on, like poke him with a stick, do something. And the fun thing too, I think you're the only media person, Joe. Maybe it's because you're on paternity leave. I feel like everyone else adds an extra IN when they say his name. It's always Treninen instead of Trenin. You're going to hear it now and you're like, God damn it. You shattered the glass.
Am I messing it up? God damn it. Again, like, I feel like we talk about this most every podcast, and like, you know, I think when people watch free agency and they saw that signing, it was easy to think, and like, I think myself included, like, it did seem longer and for more AAV than I think people anticipated. And that's the essence of free agency. We don't know what the offers were other people offering for him. But I think that's the kind of player or role that's going to grow over time. And where it's too early, I guess, to judge that. I guess eventually it won't be too early to judge that. And so we'll be talking about that more, and we'll be very critical of it. But I don't see him dogging it on shifts. I don't see him, like, it's hard to blame him for being on a new team and trying to figure out his role and be with that group. Like, they didn't sign him to be this impact offensive player on the third line. Like, if him and Foligno and their underlying numbers are pretty good as far as suppressing scoring chances and defending really well and doing all that, that's kind of the way that they wanted to bring him in for, you know? So again, looking forward to seeing what happens as the season goes on. But for a Wild team that's on this hot of a start, there's going to be some nitpicking no matter where you go. And I understand where people are coming from is nitpicking the new guy who had the biggest contract, not named Brock Faber, coming into the year.
Yeah, and obviously it's not this black and white, and there's more nuance to it. But what do you think is a proper runway before judging a player entering a new team like that? Like, is it 20 games? Is it more? Like, where do you roughly put it? Obviously, again, knowing that there'll be more that goes into that evaluation.
Well, what's the biggest knock? The one assist thing, like they're not scoring points. Is that what it is mostly, versus like
it's the points. It's not seeming as physical as expected. And I will say, like, to your point, he hasn't looked bad. He hasn't really been noticeable at any point so far. You know what I mean? Like, you want him to make an impact on the game somehow. I don't care if that's scoring a goal versus fighting someone versus like going out there and being just a physical presence on the forecheck with Foligno. Like, he just hasn't made an impact, and he hasn't like stood out glaringly as being bad. I just want to, like, I think a lot of fans are just like, do something, you know, like give us something to look at and point at and be like, okay, that's what he's doing good.
Yeah. And like, I think, you know, I'm sure people can go look ahead at like a Foligno and say, how many games was he that guy? Right. You know, and Foligno's a guy that very beloved and a key part of the core, and like sign long-term, like makes $4 million, right. Or whatever. Like, he's going to be a guy that not every day has those up the way you look at it on the score sheet or impact. But I think eventually, as the season wears on, those guys will have even bigger impacts. So, but I think 20 games is a fair gauge. 20 games, you know, for a new team, and depends on what your role is. But
For sure,
I think the fact that they've been off to such a good start has kind of masked anything that's been going on with some guys, right? Like, I think if they were, you know, 6-8 or whatever it might be, then we want more focus on what might not be happening with certain players. Might not be as much patience, but there's a luxury now of having a little bit more patience with the way things are kind of building. There's a patience of having still one of the worst penalty kill percentages, right? Like penalty kill hasn't improved an awful lot, right? As far as numbers go. And that's kind of been a little under the radar, I think, with this team. There are things that kind of get masked a little bit when you have a lot of things that are going so well for a team.
No, that is very fair. Well, thank you to our friends, Barrel Theory Beer Company, bringing you the hot take segment here every week. That'll do it, Joe. Again, a lot to be excited about here in Minnesota. If you're a sports fan, we all very much hope that it continues. Hey, tell you what, they don't all have to keep doing good. Just let some of them keep doing good. And I think most people find a way to cope and be okay with it. Everyone make sure you check out and subscribe to the Fellowship of the Rink podcast feed. 5-star review, certainly we'll take it. Tell you what, if you throw a 5-star review in and want to roast me, we'll read it live. Whatever you want to say about me, give it to us.
Mean tweets.
Read the mean tweets. Oh, some of those are really funny. If you're into the video stuff instead of audio, definitely make sure you go subscribe to the Soda Pod on YouTube. But otherwise, we'll be back here next week. Plenty more to talk about. Hopefully good things, because it looks like we got a pretty reasonable stretch of games coming up here, Joe. But I don't think we've got anything else there.
Well, it's also want to congratulate Jake Middleton and his wife, Natalie, for their birth of their he's a girl dad now, Stevie, Stevie. Congrats to them, and much props to hockey wives like Natalie, where the baby was born on one day and the next day Jake was in the lineup playing the next day. So
I think both of us would have been stabbed if we left the next day.
What would your wife think if you were the next day, the hours gone for such a significant period of time?
It would have gone really poorly.
But no matter what, very happy for Jake. I got a chance to talk to him over the summer when we were both living in the same area in Minneapolis about that whole process, going through the same thing together of our wives being pregnant and the anxiousness and the excitement and all that stuff. So congratulations to him and Natalie, and enjoy the fun, as we both know, of the early stages of being a dad. So with that, thank you so much for following and listening, and feel free to send us any suggestions, thoughts, guest requests on Twitter or on the bottom of the YouTube channel, wherever you want to reply to us. So thanks so much, guys.
You stay classy, stay to hockey.